What up, welcome to another episode of BrandonJaneauShow. As you know, I am Brandon Janeau, and like always on all podcast platforms everywhere. BrandonJaneauShow, social media, Instagram threads, BrandonJaneau, Facebook, The BrandonJaneauShow, and of course TikTok, BrandonJaneauShow. Really where you go? Oh, follow me on all the social media platforms. Really where you go though? It's just the YouTube channel, man. BrandonJaneauShow YouTube channel. Shout out to all the new subscribers. Shout out to everybody that's been liking the vids, watching the vids. Appreciate you guys tremendously. Thank you all. I appreciate it, man. Um, so I'm gonna. I was gonna do a whole show, but I'm gonna just talk about football. Screw this. I was gonna do a whole show, and I'm gonna still talk about college football, and I'm gonna talk about the NFL, which preseason starts this Thursday, which is freaking crazy. Preseason is this Thursday. Lions, Chargers. Talk about that, but I also will be talking about who do I choose? Which do I choose? Which one is better than me? The field or the Kansas City Chiefs, which is AFC. You know, AFC, the field of the AFC or the Kansas City Chiefs. And also, I'll be talking about college football, which is also coming up soon next month. Talking about which conference do I think can make a deeper playoff run this season? Not team, conference. So stay tuned for that, man. So let's get into it, man. So I've been seeing this for the last couple days, weeks, pretty much since the NFL put out this top 10 list of quarterbacks. And I even had a lot of people getting in their feelings on social media, especially TikTok, where they were like, oh man, Jalen Hurts isn't a top 10 quarterback because of the team he's in. The fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm sick and tired of people trying to sit here and you use the team analogy for the worst fucking arguments that you want to make. It's the dumbest fucking arguments. You want to give LeBron James credit for being a GOAT, but then blame his team for not winning championships. But he's the GOAT. Bitch, Will us to the title. What the fuck are you doing? Like, make a decision, nigga. Like, make it make sense. Cam Newton is one of the greatest football players in modern history. If you a decade ago, 15 years ago, Cam Newton came into the football scene like a fucking tornado. I mean, I watched this dude when he was in the SEC. He went to Auburn and played at Auburn, played in the LSU Tigers, and I'm talking about that defense. At that time, you had I think what Patrick Peterson. You had I think you had some defensive players on that fucking team, the LSU team that year. Um, but Cam was different, man. Cam is great. Cam was a great quarterback for his peak. Cam's peak is one of the best peaks that you've ever seen in football. But here's where my problem kicks in when people start to have this conversation about Jalen Hurts and Cam Newton sitting there and trying to compare stats and shit with people. Cam, your pick was great, bro. But there's a reason for why Jalen Hurts is a champion and you're not. And I'm not saying that with a disrespectful way. I'm just saying like Cam Newton needed the team to be fully functioning around him. He could not handle having other people tell him what to do because Cam Newton's personality, ego at the time was just out of whack. Shit still kind of is a little bit. People forget Cam got drafted to the Carolina Panthers. You know Steve Smith was on that team, right? Like Steve Smith was on that team of that Carolina team, and they traded Steve Smith to Baltimore because Cam Newton and him just didn't get along. Cam is great. Cam was great, but Cam needed everything to be fully about him. The offense could not. Cam's best receiver for most of his career was Greg Olsen, which is a fucking tight end. That is why I say, like, yeah, Cam is great. Cam was his peak was iconic. But there's a reason for why I don't like Cam talking crazy and reckless about Jalen Hurts, because your peak was awesome. Your peak was one of the best peaks we've ever seen in football. But once you started to decline, and once you started to kind of come down a little bit, and teams started to hit you, and the hits started accumulating on your body, you couldn't do half of the shit you used to do. And that's why I think a lot of people don't understand. Jalen Hurts does not take away from the Philadelphia Eagles. He makes them better. And I think that's why I think a lot of people are having a very, and I mean a very hard time understanding this shit. People are stupid. And they think, oh, you just take off Jalen Hurts and you can plug anybody in there and they'll be the best quarterback on that team. That's a fucking lie. Jalen Hurts fits the Eagles. The Eagles fit Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has a demeanor of a leader that a lot of players in the NFL just don't have. You can't just take any goddamn person and just plug them in as a quarterback for the fucking Philadelphia Eagles. That's just ridiculous. That is very stupid, because you think because of the team they should win. Look at the team. The team is stacked. They should obviously win a championship. Look at it. They got Saquon. They got AJ. They got Jalen Hurts fits that team. His demeanor. He doesn't need to be the guy. See, that's what people don't understand. Certain quarterbacks have an ego, like Cam Newton, that they need to be the guy. They have to be the one. They have to be the person in the blogs and the magazines and all this other shit. And when they turn on TV, they got to hear people say, by the way, you still have not heard one peep for Jalen Hurts about the list or how people have been dragging his name. There's a reason for that. His demeanor is different. People don't want to understand that there are levels to this shit when it comes to being a NFL, particularly a fucking quarterback in the NFL. Cam was great for what Cam was. But you tell me Cam is going to be in Philly, his ego's too fucking big. He needs to be the guy. He can't handle being in that situation and not be the guy. You see a Saquon Barkley run for damn near 2,000 yards last year, and you tell me Cam Newton is not going to be like, I could have did that. The same man that said he wouldn't even trade his MVP trophy for a Super Bowl ring. We're having two different conversations. See, people sitting there trying to compare it to like, oh, it's like Derrick Rose and Tony Parker, like I saw on TikTok. It's like Derrick Rose and Tony Parker. No. You sitting there and saying, well, rings don't make you great. Rings are the beginner of the conversation of who's greater. But no, rings don't make you great. I don't look at Troy Aikman like I look at Dan Marino. See, there are certain conversations that people don't want to have. There's the difference. Jalen Hurts is actually great. And that's what people don't want to admit. Jalen Hurts is actually fucking good. Like, really fucking good. For him to have the years that he's had, the man has never had a losing season. Do you understand that shit? Since he's been a starter, the man has not had a losing season. Even the year that they completely and utterly shit the bed in the second half of the season, they were 11-0. The man has not had a losing season since he's been a starter. He got Saquon Barkley last year. Do you understand how fucking crazy that shit sounds? The man has not had a losing season since he's been a starter in the NFL. Now, there's some people sit there and say, well, that's because of the team. All right, but he still got to go out there and play his ass off. I hate this comparison and I hate this debate because Cam Newton was great for what he was. But your career is over. And to sit there and say, I don't think Jalen Hurts is great because he's got a team around him. That is the dumbest shit on the planet. That's so fucking stupid. That is no fucking player can actually go to a Super Bowl and win it with nothing around them. You got there, congratulations. You're one of the rare few that could actually take his team to a Super Bowl. But what happened when you got there? You got beat by the better fucking team. That's the fuck. And Peyton Manning couldn't even throw the fucking football during that time, and yet the Denver Broncos still beat y'all. So when you sit there and say, "Oh man, look at my stats, look at my records, look at what I've done," I'm gonna look at Jalen Hurts and say, "Well, he won a ring. You didn't. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. You only had one. Yeah, you got an MVP, and if he doesn't get hurt in 2022, he gets an MVP. And I still think he should have fucking won an MVP. And they gave it to Patrick Mahomes. You played against literally a old, and I mean fucking old, Peyton Manning, who should have never been even a starter at that time, but Denver had no backup because Brock Osweiler sucked. So they went right back to Peyton Manning. That was the quarterback you played in your Super Bowl, and you still couldn't win it. And don't sit there and say, well, the team gave up. The team didn't do. Whoa. I thought this was. See, this again is what I keep saying about people. When people bring up team, you only bring up the team when we start to make sense. But the team shit the bed. No. No. I'm telling you, Denver was a better team than Carolina that year. Yeah, they were 15-1. But that was mainly Cam. And I give him that. Like I said, he's rare. That was a rare player at a very rare time. Their number one, who's their running back? Mike Talbot? Mike Talbot? Greg Olsen was his number one receiver. It's like this man had no one. And then he finally played a team that can actually Von Miller could get through the offensive line and get to Cam Newton. He can do shit. And Cam is always going to have one thing on his record that nobody and Jalen Hurts would never probably have. The fact that you didn't dive on that ball in the Super Bowl, bro. You made a decision, a decision to like, nah, I'm good. Shows you the level of where you felt you were. You felt like, listen, Cam is great. Jalen is great. But Cam Newton feeling his way about Jalen Hurts is ridiculous. Because it's like, bro. And here's the thing. Cam can't do what Jalen Hurts did. He couldn't. Because his ego was too out of whack. He could not sit there and listen to somebody tell him, hey, bro, calm the fuck down. Give the ball to Saquon. Just play calmly. He needed to be the man. Am I going to sit here and say Jalen Hurts could do what Cam did? No, I don't think he could. But if you gave me one or the other, I think Jalen Hurts could easily have figured out the Carolina Panthers way easier than Cam could figure out the Eagles. It's not because Cam needs the entire offense and team to be his. He couldn't deal with a Saquon Barkley. He couldn't deal with an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, a Nick Sirianni who barely sometimes has his moments where he kind of forgets how to do shit. He couldn't have that. And I don't think people understand that shit. So Cam was lightning in the bottle. He was a moment. But Jalen Hurts is consistency. And his consistency is going to last longer. Like I said, Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. He outplayed the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, in both Super Bowls. Cam could barely outplay Peyton Manning, who literally was retiring after the end of the game. And we all knew it. So again, debate this shit, argue about the shit, do what you got to do. But don't sit here and tell me, like I said, Cam is great. But to sit up here and pretend like Jalen Hurts isn't as great or can't be as great as Cam Newton one day, as Cam had a peak. Cam had a moment. Cam had lightning in the bottle. But once that shit ended, it ended fast and it ended abruptly. And that's just facts, man. College football. So we already know the big conferences in college football, Big Ten, SEC. We already know. But it's about the smaller conferences. This is about the ACC in the Big 12. Pac-12 won't really take a form until next year when they get all of those teams in the Pac-12. So about these two conferences. So the ACC and the Big 12. And the question that I have for this week is, which one of these conferences could actually make noise in the college playoffs if they get in? Now for the ACC, you got Miami, obviously. The Miami Hurricanes. You got Florida State. I don't know about them. You got Pittsburgh. You got North Carolina with Bill Belichick. That's gonna be pretty fucking intriguing. You got Duke. You got who else? You got Duke. You got who else? Stanford. You got Clemson, who has a massive game coming up this year. SMU, who represented the ACC last year in the college playoffs. So you got some teams in the ACC, man. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, all of them, right? And if you want to say even Notre Dame, because technically Notre Dame kind of does play ACC games, even though they're not technically in the ACC yet. But that is the ACC, Big 12. In the Big 12, you have what? Cincinnati, Houston, uh, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Arizona State. Um, who else? Who else in the Big 12? Yeah, you got some quality teams in the Big 12 as well. Houston, I think I said Houston. Um, so that's the Big 12. So out of all of those teams, all of those teams, who can make the actual run? Now, obviously, I'm going to say Miami. That's obvious. I think Miami can easily make a run. I think the U has always been just there. Here's the thing about Miami, though, this year. I do not trust Carson back for shit. I don't trust Carson back for shit. Clemson should be good. We shall see week one. And I can't really even judge it on a week one. You're at home. You're playing LSU. You're going to do everything you can to beat LSU. I can't judge it on the LSU game because a lot of their games, a lot of their losses didn't start until at the end of the year for Clemson. They didn't fall off the mountain till at the end of the year. A team that people not talk about a lot is Louisville. Louisville, who's also in ACC. I could definitely see Louisville maybe make some noise this year. Again, like I said, North Carolina with Bill Belichick. That's an intriguing situation. I can't wait to see how that's going to actually physically look. That's going to be pretty intriguing. I'm a huge North Carolina Tar Heels fan when it comes to basketball. For the Big 12, Houston can always surprise people. Cincinnati is always a weird one. Anything can happen. I think you got UCF in the Big 12, Central Florida, who's somehow some way figures themselves out at some point. Arizona State, who won the Big 12 last year. Oklahoma State, who's always a threat. Utah is in the Big 12. Um, BYU, who's in the Big 12. Of course, Colorado. Yo, prayers up for Coach Prime. Yes, prayers up for Coach Prime. Uh, that was crazy to hear that today. I was like, what the fuck? You gentlemen have bladder cancer? Like, the fuck? That shit was crazy. Wow. Prayers up for Coach Prime, man. Um, but Colorado is in the Big 12. Like, there's a lot of things that can happen in the Big 12. I would probably say, if I had to pick a team that can make a run this year out of these conferences, I think BYU. I think BYU. I think BYU makes the run. And I know people think that sounds absolutely fucking crazy. But BYU is a team that has enough defense, a defense in the Big 12, which is crazy. Also TCU, but BYU has a defense. The thing about BYU the last couple of years has always been they get caught early and then they can't make up the ground. Like they get caught very fucking early. Like they get caught by a team that they're not supposed to fucking lose to, and you just send that like last year they lost to SMU, and you're like, how the fuck you lose to SMU? What the fuck? Now SMU was great last year. Don't get twisted, but it's just like, what the fuck? How you lose to SMU? But I think BYU is the team. I think nobody's gonna talk about it until it's like you look up and you're like, oh shit, BYU is really fucking good. If I had to say the ACC, like I said, Miami, Clemson, obviously, but Syracuse. Syracuse is a team that nobody's talking about. Syracuse is always a weird kind of team. They play in the Carrier Dome, so you don't really talk about them too much. But Syracuse is a team that could probably surprise people in the ACC, especially with Miami and Clemson. Like I said, I don't know about Clemson. We got to see how they're gonna actually physically look by the end of the year. They always get caught at the end. But Syracuse is always one of those teams that if they can stay the course for most of the year and stay in the race of the ACC, they can get the ACC and they can get to the championship game, man. They can get to the ACC championship game and they could probably make a run. I wouldn't be surprised, man. But if you had to ask me out of those two teams, it'd be BYU. I think BYU as a defense, they've always had a pretty good offense. So yeah, I see BYU. NFL. Like I said, Lions, Chargers. This Thursday kicks off preseason. Preseason is very early this year. Thank God, because we've been looking for football, waiting for football for a very long fucking time. Man, it's been a long ass couple months. One thing about this situation, right? That we've been, especially in the AFC, has been the field versus Kansas City. And I've been very vocal and said Kansas City feels like for the first time in a long time, they feel vulnerable. Now, you got Xavier Worthy, you got Rasheed Rice, uh, Isaiah Pacheco, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Chris Jones, uh, that defense of Kansas City. They're great. They're great. But if you ask me, the field or Kansas City, now here's the thing: the AFC has not gotten better. They didn't do shit to get better. Baltimore didn't do shit to get better. Cincinnati didn't do shit to get better. Buffalo didn't do shit to get better. Chargers, Raiders, none of these teams did shit to get better in the AFC, which makes it even worse. Until somebody beats Kansas City and takes them up the mountaintop, what does that mean, right? And for me, is it the field or Kansas City? I still go with the field. The reason why I say I go with the field over Kansas City is because even though those teams didn't get better, Kansas City didn't do shit to get better either. And that's kind of the problem. Neither one of these teams got none of these teams got better than AFC. I talked about me and my brother Juan talked about this a bunch of times during our divisions predictions. None of these teams got better. Nobody got absolutely better. They all kind of stayed intact. I mean, you had Baltimore get DeAndre Hopkins. You had Buffalo get Joey Bosa. They never stayed intact. A lot of these teams really didn't run out there and make a big ass splash. If anyone, probably Houston, and that's kind of it. But none of these teams really made a massive splash to really change anything. New England, I say New England, but we got to see how New England is. But I would still take the field over Kansas City because Kansas City didn't do shit to get better either. They still have this belief that their defense is just going to be their defense. And Patrick Mahomes is just going to magically make shit happen. And Travis Kelce is going to turn back the clock one more year and become great again. You're just hoping and hoping. And that is why I feel like the field can finally catch Kansas City because even though they didn't do nothing to get better, neither did Kansas City. And that's kind of the problem. But that is it, man. That is all. I believe sports today. This is fun. Tell you guys next week once football is here and getting closer and closer to my crazy six of college football. My games of the week, my most intriguing, most interesting, my upset, and my game of the week. Of course, my big four and my levels of warning. That's all coming soon. So stay tuned. And next week will pretty much beat August. So I'll be starting that very soon. I might be starting maybe next week. So definitely. Also, I'll be doing my top 10 list of I'm feeling like running backs. Nah, I do receivers. Top 10 list of receivers next week. Uh, yeah, that's next week. That's next week. That's August. Holy shit, we're already in August. Lord have mercy. But that's next week. Talk to you guys soon. I am Brandon Janeau. This is Obby Sports. Peace.